I think it's fair to say that all of us here today are either students right now or have been at a point in our lives. Now, when you think about it, there is something pretty counterintuitive about the way we learn in school. Because sure, some subjects naturally make sense to us, but some of them don't. And isn't it weird how we have to force our brains into new patterns to understand things that don't necessarily make sense to us right away? I know that, for instance, when I was analyzing a French poem last year in French class, oftentimes I wondered, why do I have to force myself to make my brain understand a more literary logic that doesn't really come to me when I'm more naturally suited for other things, perhaps for like mathematics or something? Now, of course, I think we all know the answer to this. It's actually very important to train your brain to understand different disciplines because it makes it more flexible, more elastic. You create more connections between neurons. And so those connections make you a better thinker, a more analytical thinker. It helps you make decisions faster and better. However, I think it's still fair to say that we all have a bit of a problem overstepping the initial reaction of like, why should I give up my way of thinking and accept someone else's, you know? It's a bit of a leap of faith to give up a logic that makes sense to you and accept someone else's logic. You're just granting them an authority over your mind. We trust our own brains more than we trust anyone else's, right? And so the problem here is that our uncertainty to trust in a natural way of thinking slows us down as we try to learn, because eventually, you know, we still have to incorporate that understanding that isn't natural to us into our own understanding to like access the problem, you know. So then how do we overstep that initial fear of learning something that doesn't really work with how we were used to thinking, and to become better students and to develop our understanding? Well, I found my answer to this question almost by accident. You see, I spent 2 years of my high school career at an American school, and then 2 years here at the Lycée Français. And so, as you probably know, if you've had bilingual or bicultural experiences, you tend to sort of compare every single aspect of them. And so when I came here at the LFNY, I had a tendency to compare, you know, my classes, compare my teachers that I had now to the classes and the teachers that I'd had in the past. And so I noticed that I had to adapt to the fact that all the language, of course the language was different, but also the methods that I was taught were different. So for instance, even in math, the process of reasoning was different, even though math is supposed to be, you know, an international language. And so having this double experience made me develop for the first time a certain critical distance from what I was being taught. I noticed that all these, differences between the French system and the American system created fundamental educational guidelines that were very different in the French system and the American system. And so it made me realize that there was like a larger purpose, a sort of behind the curtains explanation to how the teachers were teaching us to think. And so the critical distance that I gained from that really enabled me to trust that what the teachers were telling me was more than just their understanding, but really just a new perspective. And so from my experience, I can tell you this. I think that we start trusting our teachers the day we stop believing them. Because unlike for religion, education isn't based on faith, it's based on facts. And so my advice to all of you to improve as students is to stop believing your teachers. Instead, you have to question them a little bit. You have to gain perspective on your education. I hope it will help you open more freely to new ideas, because I know it's helped me. Thank you very much.